about you guys? Everybody have a good week? Yeah, who can tell me one good thing you did this week? Something fun. You had basketball practice, that's fun. Yeah. All those are fun. Alright, well today we're talking about All Saints Day. Does anybody know what that is? All Saints Day is a day where we celebrate all the believers who have came in our Christian family before us. Okay? So, what I have here is a Bible. How many of you have ever had a photo album that you have like in your house, like your grandparents have one, right? Just a big book with a bunch of pictures in it, right? A bunch of pictures of your family or your friends. And what a photo album does is a photo album lets us to see and to remember these people who came before us. For example, I have a photo album in my grandparents' house, and it's just full of pictures of my grandparents and their grandparents and their parents, right? And so all these people that I've never met before, but I've heard all these stories about, and I've heard stories about them, I've heard about them, and how great of people they were, and how awesome they were. And I see these pictures of them, helps me put a face with the name, right? And so what this is the Bible. And what the Bible is the Bible is a big book full of truth, right, that God lets us read into. And what it is, it's full of stories. It's full of stories of different people, different places and times. And these people who walked alongside Jesus and who did awesome things for the kingdom of God. And so, on All Saints Day, we remember these people. We use the Bible as a photo album, so to speak, right? So we can see these people and learn about these people and appreciate these people for all the things that they did for the Christian faith, right? And for Jesus. And so today, that's what All Saints Day is about, is just remembering those awesome people of the faith who came before us. And so today, that's all we're going to talk about, just All Saints Day, so you guys can get kind of an idea of what it is that we're celebrating today. So I'm going to pray for us. Once I get done praying, if you go to children's church, you can go. If not, you can go back to your seat, okay? Let's pray. Father God, thank you so much for this day. Thank you for everything you've given us. Thank you for another chance to come to your house, to worship you, to fellowship. We thank you for each and every one of these kids, what they mean to us, what they mean to you, God. We thank you that you love them, and that we get to love them, and that you bless us with them. Ask God you do Jeff as he brings the message. Help him to be your mouthpiece, God, that you can all get something from it. And we pray.
Our scripture reading this morning comes from 2 Timothy chapter 4, verses 6 to 8. I invite you to follow along as I read. For I am already being poured out like a drink offering, and the time for my departure is near. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. Now there is in store for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on that day. And not only to me, but also to all who have longed for his appearing. Thanks be to God for the reading, for the understanding of this holy blessed word. You pray with me. Lord, may the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart glorify your holy name. We ask that you take these words and make them more than what they are on the page. That they would become, God, for us, your words today. Come, Lord, and fill this time with the experience of your holy presence. Amen. Have you ever taken a walk through a cemetery? I know it sounds a little morbid. Megan, when she was growing up in Ashland, she lived really close to the town cemetery. It was right there, just a little ways down from our house. And so it was normal for my wife growing up to play and to take a walk and to ride her bike through the cemetery. I thought it sounded weird myself, but when we were dating, she let me in on this practice. And one beautiful spring day, she insisted that we go to the Lexington Cemetery. It was gorgeous. Not only were the monuments gorgeous and pretty, but the flowers were in bloom, and the trees were flowering themselves, and it was just an incredible place. I gotta tell you, I paid attention myself, being a man of words. I paid attention to the inscriptions on so many of the tombs. A few words used to sum up the life of a person and what they meant to the people closest to them. Loving father, kind, gentle mother, our baby. And all of that has got me wondering this morning how people are going to remember me and you when we're gone, friends. What words will they choose for our life? My great-great-great-grandmother was a woman named, in the book At the End of the Day, James Moore lists a series of tombstones that he's found throughout his travels that, stand as a challenge to us to how we live our lives. He looks at these inscriptions as a way to, sum up how people were and how they acted. Here are a few of my favorites. In Nova Scotia, there was a man named Ezekiel Akel. Here are the words on his tombstone. Here lies Ezekiel Akel, age 102. Only the good die young. My favorite comes from a little tiny country cemetery in Georgia. I told you I was sick. On a stone in Thurmont, Maryland, are these blunt words. Here lies an atheist, all dressed up and no place to go. And finally, a church cemetery in Cambridge, England. Here lies Father William, who served as vicar of this church for 30 years without the slightest trace of enthusiasm. How will you be remembered, friends? I tried to jump ahead, don't let me. My great-great-grandmother was a woman named Molly Jernigan Godby. She was the wife of a United Methodist minister, a man named Josiah Godby. Actually was preaching a revival in Mount Sterling, Kentucky, and they had a list of their former pastors. And I was looking on that list, and I saw the name Josiah Godby. Had gotten it before I had. Preached that circuit years and years and years before. Josiah Godby was one of the last United Methodist pastors in Kentucky to ride his circuit via horseback, friends. Let me tell you, that was a tough gig. They gave them not one church, but many churches, several counties worth. And their job was to ride from church to church and community to community, house to house, performing the sacraments, preaching, encouraging the faithful, rousing the unfaithful and the sinners of their area. Together, Josiah and Molly raised 5 children. And with Josiah on the road all the time as a United Methodist circuit rider, you can bet that Molly did all the work of raising 5 kids practically on her own. In her tombstone in the Lexington Cemetery are the following words. Molly Jernigan Godby, mother of 5, faithful wife. She hath done the best she could. She hath done the best she could. I don't know if I could do much better than that. We could do worse, couldn't we? In our passage today, we get a look in on Paul's final letter that he sends to the church. Most scholars believe, in fact, that when these words were being written out of Paul's mouth, that he was just days away from his execution by a Roman Emperor Nero. These are not just another set of instructions to another church that Paul has helped give birth to. These words that he says today are inscription worthy. These are among his last words. Words used to sum up his life, his last will and testament. What does he say? He said, I'm already being poured out like a drink offering. The time for my departure is near. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. And now there is in store for me a crown of righteousness with the Lord, the righteous judge. will award to me on that day. And not only me, but also to all who have longed for God's glorious appearing. And let me ask you, who of us wouldn't want those words on our tombstone? The longer I live, the longer I'm here. I got to tell you, church, I've come to understand that so much of our life and the way we're judged has to do with our faithfulness and our commitment. It's not just how good we are. It's not just about our gifts or our excitement or our enthusiasm or whether or not we're the most popular person in our neighborhood. Friends, what it's all about, you and I are measured by our faithfulness. We're measured by our faithfulness. Maybe you've heard the story about the young college man who got a beautiful framed picture of his girlfriend. And he wanted to make copies of it because it was so beautiful. And he was just, wow. He wanted to show everybody this gorgeous, professionally done picture. So he takes it to a studio and he tries to make copies. And of course, you have to take it out of its nice little frame. And as the gentleman in charge of the Photoshop was looking at the picture, he noticed an inscription on the back of the photograph. Here's what it said. My dearest Tom, I love you with all my heart. I love you more and more every day. I will love you forever and ever. I am completely yours for all eternity. It was signed with love and affection, Diane. And there was a postscript. It said, P.S. If we break up, I want this photo back. I'm just saying, maybe she wasn't as committed as she thought she was. I'm just putting that out there. Paul speaks of his commitment to Jesus Christ by telling us that he's done three things. He uses three images. The first image he uses is that he has fought the good fight. He's fought the good fight. The word here in Greek for fight, agon, it means that you've given your all. It means that you have given everything and are being carried off the field on a stretcher. That's the kind of picture that this word is supposed to put in our minds. Paul, when he says this, he's done this. His entire life was given to Jesus Christ. He compares his life to a drink offering, to something that is being poured out for God and others. Paul had been in prison for preaching the Word of God. And though I've been preaching a long time, never once have I been thrown in jail for the sermon I preach. There was a time or two I maybe should have been, but never once have I been thrown in jail. He had started trouble wherever he'd been. He had had people who tried to kill him. He had been shipwrecked. He had been, tortured. All this, everything Paul seemed to do was for other people. Be it putting out a fire and solving a problem in one of the churches he started, or taking care of other people's problems, or serving those who were in great need. Now Paul was within sight of the end of his life, and he knew what was waiting on him. The image that he uses is, I fought my fight. He's satisfied that he has done the best he could do. The next image he uses is a man who has finished the race. In the 1996 Summer Olympics, Derek Redmond was entered into the 400-meter race. He had spent the better part of his life preparing for that race. His dad was his trainer and his coach, and he knew how hard he worked. And when the race began, much to Redmond and his father's delight, he got a huge lead. He was leaving everyone else behind. It was clear and obvious he was going to be the winner. And then, without warning, about halfway through, his Achilles tendon snapped. And he was no longer able to run. And he began to hobble to try to reach the end of the race. And it was really clear, watching him just a minute with that injury, he was not going to be able to finish the race. A man jumped over the guardrail, separating the crowd from the field of play. And he ran out to catch up with Redmond. It wasn't long. And he put his arm around his waist. And this man, who we only later found out was his father, helped him finish the race. Anybody remember that? After the fact, Redmond said, "You know, my dad was the only one who could have helped me to the end of the finish line. Because he was the only one who knew how hard I trained, who knew what I had given. He was the only one who knew what I'd been through." Church, I want you to remember, God did not put you here to run your race alone. He has given you friends and family. He has given you a church to support you and to walk with you in your race. Friends, He has given us a great cloud of witnesses that sets the bar for our lives of faith very high, that cheer us on. And perhaps most importantly, we can be confident that we run our race with the one who knows what we've been through, who knows how we feel, who knows what it costs. Jesus Christ. Paul says He's fought the good fight. He has finished the race. And lastly, he says He has kept the faith. He's kept the faith. You know, Carol was talking about it. Keeping the faith can be hard to do, can't it? It can be hard to do. Tony Campolo tells the story of being asked to preach at John Brown University in Georgia, or in Arkansas, I should say. He preached there several times before, and he'd always been well received. And he was glad to be coming back. This time, however, as he started to preach, he noticed that there was a couple that he was not used to seeing right there in the front row. They were middle-aged, late middle-aged, and they were listening intently to every word that he said. At the end of the service, they came up to him and they explained who they were and why they had come that day. They were parents of a young lady who had attended that university. And they told him their daughter's story. She'd been through a very difficult time. When she became a teenager, she began to drift away from her parents. She began to rebel against everything that her parents had taught her. Everything that they even believed. Even coming to faith, coming to church, stopped. And she questioned their faith in Jesus Christ. She became a part of a goth culture. Against their wishes, she cut her hair into a mohawk. And she wore only black and had friends that her parents just didn't frankly approve of. Worse than that, her attitude, the way she treated her parents, was just horrible. She never had a kind word for them. She constantly sneered at anything that they said or did and openly mocked their faith in Christ Jesus. They, in fact, were shocked when she announced that she was following one of her closest friends to a Christian school in Arkansas. And that day that Tony had spoken at that university the last time, their daughter was there. She was there in that chapel service because she was required as a student to be there. Tony was asked to preach an evangelistic message, and when he extended the invitation to Christ, this young lady accepted it that day. And after that, she went to her dorm room and she wrote a letter to her parents, letting them know all that had happened to her in that chapel. She begged their forgiveness for the way that she had been treating them and promising to come home the next weekend so she could reconcile with her mom and dad face to face. She told them that because Christ was in her life now, everything was going to be different now. It was a beautiful, well-written letter, and she mailed it that same day. That next morning, she was crossing the street to go to class, and she was hit by a truck and killed. Her parents were devastated. They were certain, in fact, that their prayers for her salvation had been unanswered. Then the day after the funeral, they got this letter from their daughter. And it changed everything. It didn't remove, well, their great sense of loss. But it gave them comfort. Because they were certain that they were going to see their daughter again in eternity. Church, it is so easy for you and I to lose hope. When we look around and see the way that things are going, it is so easy for us to lose hope. My encouragement for you today, my encouragement to you today is to keep the faith. Keep the faith. Because whether or not you can see it or not right now, God is working to raise you up from our despair, to transform your weakness and mine into His strength, to lift us from a pit of suffering and sin to new and abundant life in Jesus Christ. Today is All Saints Sunday. It's the day of the Christian year when we set aside time to remember the lives of saints in our lives. Those who have fought the fight before us. Today we have the opportunity to honor the folks who died in the past year and many others. I will tell you, as we think about honoring these folks, I'm going to suggest to you that the best way to do it is to live your life well. To live a life that is inscription worthy. Where people can look at you and see, he, she, they've done the best they can do. So may God give you strength to fight the good fight today. May He give you passion to run your race with endurance and the courage to keep the faith so that you too can claim a crown of righteousness, not just for us, but for all who have longed for God's glorious appearing. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen. Today we are going to honor those who have been members of our church who passed away this year. I'm going to read the names of these two folks. And then I'm going to ask you to share responsibility. I'm going to say, Lord, for your servant. We give you God and say, we give you thanks. You ready, church? Jim Woods Adams. Lord, for your servant.
We give you thanks.
Ada Vaughn Newman. Lord, for your servant.
We give you thanks.
We know, church, that these dear saints, as much as they mean to our church, well, they're only the tip of the iceberg. We wanted to give you the opportunity to share those who may not have been members of our church, but are near and dear to your heart. So now we are going to invite you, just as you are, where you are, just say the names out loud of those that you lost this year or any other. Follow the Humphreys.
Sandberg. Jim Reed.
Mrs. Beulah Hester. George F. Spoonhorn. Glenn Hester. Phillips. Mrs. Sherman Anderson. My grandmother, Hattie Peck.
Let's say it one more time together. Lord, for these your servants.
We give you